Great, fantastic. Just gone past top of the hour, so something to think about before we formally get going. So welcome, morning everyone, and yeah, I think I'll just hand it across to Lee and find out what she's got in store for us this morning. So Lee, over to you.
I'm thrown in the deep end by my business partner announcing things to the group before he's had a chance to discuss with his business partners, paddling, and then he has to get a bit of pushback. So welcome everybody. Thanks to Stella, we are focusing this morning on choices. And I think what struck me, and it just as she was talking, the word decide came up over and over again. I'm not sure if you realize that, Stella, but it was just a theme that I started to hear, is that this happened to me and then I decided. I think it came across particularly strongly when she was feeling I need to look at what is actually giving me life and what is draining me. And in a good job, doing well in it, but reflecting on its effect on her, and then this moment where I decided, and then that changed everything. It changed her job, it changed what she was going to study, it changed her direction. And so I am really, that's what struck me. And then of course, when I asked Stella to reflect on her story, it was about choices. That was the overarching theme. And so pulling that through, just to throw that back now to the group and to say, well, what is the value of choices and decisions? And can you think about a decision that you made that changed the course of your life? And what was so important about that decision? Or even a smaller decision around, in the moment, deciding. I was actually talking to a friend last night. She's in the States, so we had to manage it in terms of time. And she was saying she had been hurt by a miscommunication. And the decision to say, this is not going to affect me. I'm not, there are bigger things for me to deal with. I have to work it through, but I'm deciding for it to not bog me down. So that's really what I'm throwing out to the group this morning, and leaving it up to you to pick up where you would like to.
Great, thanks Lee. Yeah, I think well, we have to decide whether we're going to discuss this or not. So so we can take it from there. But I think I think the point that you make is absolutely key. Often people feel they have no choice in situations, but actually you always do. You can always decide what your reaction to a situation is going to be and what action you're going to take thereafter. So I think it's definitely a mindset thing, and yeah, great topic. So let's swing straight into it. So Grant and I were having a chat just before everybody else came on board, and he was saying that he likes being pushed a little bit. So Grant, I'm going to kick off with you this morning.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. My choice is not to answer right now. No. Yeah. So I have lived my life with too many other people making choices for me. So most of my career, and I've got weird things from one end to the other that I've done, but just because they popped up and somebody else decided that was maybe a good idea, and I said, yeah, let's go with that, let's go with this. So I've got a lot of experience in a lot of things, but never really took the bull by the horns on my side. I think the big one for me was similar to Stella, or maybe a little bit different. I didn't have a B degree. I did my MBA with no previous degree at the age of 39, which was a choice for me, and that has changed my life in a big way. And also, and the only reason why is because someone said to me, you can't do it. And I said, really? Okay, well then I will. And I got in and I did it. So I fight with, not fight, I'm not Trevor, so I don't fight with people. But my wife, so I think your attitude towards things, or your belief in things, or what you can and can't do, are choices as well. unless you physically are missing pieces of your body, there are things that you can do things. You just got to think that you can. And I think believing that is a choice. So I'm not saying I've got it right. I battle with it all the time. I've got to remind myself that I've got choices, and I've got to remind myself to choose. But yeah, I think choices are important.
Great, thanks, Grant. And I think there was a challenge thrown out there. So Trevor, you need to decide whether you want to respond to that or not.
Listen, I'm just going to share a story, but I hope Shelwyn isn't up here listening to me at the moment. I was only ever given one ultimatum in my life, and that is, you either settle down now or I'm out of here. So I had to quieten down, and that's why you see me being the subservient individual that I am. Grant, I will just poison your tea. I won't fight with you at all. Okay, but seriously, that was the most serious choice I was actually given, and I had to take the decision. And some 40 years later, I think I've been given the ultimatum every year for 40 years, Stella. So I'm just reminded of that particular choice, you know. Okay, but yes, choices, I don't know. I've never been one to actually take anyone else's threats seriously. I've always made my own choices. And when I decide, I tend to go with it. But I'm also not shy to change my mind within 30 minutes, as Ivan will tell you. And I'm sure Lee. So maybe 3.5 days later, Lee, maybe 5 days or whatever. But I'll think about it. Okay.
Yeah, no, I have to concur with Trevor. There's only one person I've ever seen control him, and that's Shelwyn. So yeah, nobody else seems to come close. We just you don't want to hear that. All right, I'll keep quiet now. Steve, your thoughts?
Sure. I feel like I'm still waking up here. You can come back to me.
Have a coffee, Steve.
All right, go for it, Herman.
Yeah, I've made choices with terrible consequences, and yet the most important choice I've ever made in my life was to leave a big corporate after 21 years working for them. And the consequence out of that was that I must put something up front first. The corporate was a very, very political organization. And what was more important, not who you are and what you do, but how you play the game and whom you work with or cooperate with. It's that highly political. After 21 years, I left it. And if there's one thing I'm grateful for, they've allowed me to travel the world and live and work in various countries on different continents. But what the price I paid during my time over those 21 years, even though I was never a corporate player and often swam against the stream, yet whether you like it or not, your personality is kind of, you know, you're not breathing as freely as you did. And after I left, I wasn't immediately successful, and that applied for quite a few years. But I was a lot truer to myself than I was during my 21, or at least let's say the last 5-6 years during my corporate life. So that was a critical decision which contributed to whom you are meeting today. Thanks.
Right, thanks, Herman. Umpo, your thoughts?
Morning, everyone. So it's interesting that we're talking about this today, and with the situation that I have, I'm alone with the kids this morning. So I keep on moving my head to make sure that nobody's choking to death. But when I was 18 weeks pregnant with my second one, I was told that I was carrying a child with Down syndrome, and I was given until 23 weeks to terminate. And I made a decision and a choice at that time that I'm going to keep this child. And I didn't know anything about Down syndrome. So when I started researching and understanding the condition, I realized that I had a really big task ahead of me. And, you know, my business has always been me. You know, when people think of Masutane, they think of Mpho. You know, I've never separated the two. And that had implications of how I would run my business going forward. And I made a decision to share this information with my clients and what it would take for me to raise this child. And I gave them a choice to make a decision if they still wanted to continue to work with my organization, or for us to refer them to somebody who would be available for them 24 hours a day. But interestingly enough, all our clients supported us. They still do. Our business has grown. I've even employed an additional person in the business. So I found that telling your truth honestly and openly sometimes is it's better than kind of trying to hide what you're going through. Thanks.
Great, fantastic. Well, thanks for that. And yeah, I'll perhaps share something along those lines at a later stage as well. So great, appreciate that. Stella, your thoughts?
Morning, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sis Mpho. Sorry, I was just pausing through the moment of your sharing just now, and it just took me aback a little bit. But if I gather my thoughts and just to the topic, to what we are talking about, in my head, I link this with, and there's a nice flow in how we are talking with failure when we spoke about failure. My worry has been working with guys that don't take the decision because they fear repercussions, because they fear what might happen, because they fear failure. So I think I just wanted to bring that to presence and bring that to the group to say, I agree with what the guys have been saying, but I want us to also just consider the little bit element of the motivation that comes with taking a certain decision. I mean, usually when you ask people, even with hindsight, they will tell you that I would have made the same decision. Even if I knew what the future would have brought me, I probably would have made the same decisions because I would have been the same guy in the same circumstance, you know. But I wanted to just say that because that's what is triggering with me, and I'm doing a little bit of my own shadow work. And I'm realizing that, look, we're gonna fail. That's why failure for me is just a lesson. And for as long as I draw breath, I haven't really failed because time hasn't ended. I may have a lot of setbacks, but I'll keep taking decisions. Every decision brings an outcome. We'll deal with the outcomes and see where we go from there. That's all that I wanted to share.
Great, thanks. Ian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually posted a short little saying. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of sayings that people post on Facebook and LinkedIn, but one had a sort of really resonated with me. I can't remember exact wordings, but it was to the point that if your circle of influence or circle of friends doesn't inspire you, then you haven't got a circle, you've got a cage. And picking up what Grant was saying, I've also been guilty of the fact that I have been influenced by other people's opinions. So what it's called collective unconsciousness. So you surround yourselves with people, and how these people act, how these people perform, what they say, what their beliefs are, inadvertently now becomes your beliefs, and you fall and you become part of the herd. So it's a very difficult thing. And I, strangely enough, in the last 3 weeks, have made a profound decision to move away from a circle that wasn't inspiring me, but in fact, I felt that I was in a cage. So I went through that process of making that transition and not being influenced and trying not to be influenced by other people's opinions, because you fall into the trap of, maybe I'll say this because that's what they want to hear, or I want to be a nice guy, so I'll say the right things. And you fall yourself into a trap where you actually, you know, you're not a circle, you end up in this cage.
Great, thanks Ian. I'm pleased to see Stella's cat has decided to join us this morning. So Stella, what does your cat think about the situation?
She's making funny sounds, so I'm not quite sure. For me, I think I've in the last couple of years, I made a conscious decision and a choice every day to be thankful and grateful. And I think if you're thankful and grateful, then it actually changes the lenses through which you look at other people and situations, because then you're not envious of other people and you don't compare yourself to other people. So yeah, thankfulness is a great, is a big part of my life. Thanks. And Mpho, what a great, I would love to hear the rest of your story. And that was so, it's a very brave decision that you made. I think it takes a very special person to bring up Down syndrome child. So well done.
Great, thanks, Stella. Guy, your thoughts?
Grant, just to let you know, it's warm in Joburg. So I choose to be a pirate today. Hang on, I can't get this right, but anyway. So it's warmer in Joburg, Grant. Anyway, very interesting. From my personal experiences, we either make emotional choices or rational choices. And I found historically the emotional choices have really cocked things up. And those choices in my life have cost me quite a bit of money. And then I've had to get back to some rational choices. I've really, you know, it's just been me and my own business for 23 years, effectively, just me, no one else, except clients. And I don't actually really worry about X, Y, Z. I've just tried to, through my learning in Buddhism that I'm going through, to actually try and understand how people think and their behavior in different situations that they put in different groups. And I agree with Ian, one circle of influence. I moved out of all of those at the end of 2018. And of recent, because of this great technology, the old silver fox here has started to advance a bit. So I'm looking at, hey Trevor, you can join me. I'm looking at different circles of influence, and I've been talking to some clients that I'm coaching online about who's in their circle of influence, and why is that person there, and how long have they been there, and are they adding influence, and must they get new eyes in their circle of influence? So to me, choice is the bottom line. It's emotional choices or rational choices, and trying to get that balance, I found personally. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Guy. I think we'll have to definitely move into a setup where we have breakout rooms so we can move the pirates to one side and the rest of us normal people can carry on in the general forum. Yeah. Steve, are you awake yet?
I think so. Sure. What Mpho shared really touched me very deeply. I sent her a message just now to tell her that we're waiting for a gynae appointment. My wife is going this week to have the final conclusive testing to discover whether she is carrying a Down syndrome baby or not. And we discovered that 5 weeks ago. And if you just, as you're talking about choices, it seemed an easy and immediate choice that termination of a pregnancy is not something that we would consider as a family. But just the discussion this morning makes me think about sometimes decisions that we make when we are not aware of what the outcome will be. Sometimes decisions we take quite lightly, and the rollout from that can be quite heavy. And so that there's a big consequence sometimes to accept, depending on which decision you've made, which direction you go in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's negative either way. But I'm just aware at the moment, because of what Mpho shared, of the weight of decisions and the directions in which they can go. And then just a quick comment on what Guy had shared. I don't think anybody falls in love rationally. And so I see less of a disconnect between rational and emotional decisions, although I think I understand where he was coming from in terms of rash, overly emotional decisions. But I do think there's something to be found in the holistic approach that combines your emotion and your rationality, and can look at things from a slightly broader perspective, and that emotions are not necessarily unhelpful, but they can be if you're overreactive and they're controlling you. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I think this brings us almost back to one of our very early discussions where we spoke about language. And I think the semantics of language can become quite an interesting discussion, whether you're talking about emotion or whether you're talking about passion, and how people interpret those different words when it comes to decision making. So yeah, I think it's it's always interesting how one interprets, and I think again that's a decision. You know, how do you choose to interpret what you're hearing from other people, and how then you choose to react to those things that you're interpreting, because it may be something completely different to what the person who's actually speaking intended it to be. So I think it makes for a very interesting thing. So I see we've got a youngster amongst us. Fantastic. So great, super. Thanks, Mpho.
Sorry, Ivan. I just wanted to introduce, just for Steve. This is Ayanda. So look at Ayanda. So, you know, they say he's got what is called mosaicism, Down syndrome. You know, they'd estimated that he would be on, so he's 17 months now. And developmentally, he's at around 10 months. He's just started breaking out his teeth, and he's starting to stand. We are in therapy 3 times a week, swimming on the 1 day and physical therapy on the 2 days. And we also made a decision to put him through quite a very good school where he does certain activities on a daily basis. But I regret absolutely nothing. He's the most amazing, he's the funniest guy I've ever met in my entire life, like funnier than his father. So I wish you really all the best, that you can come to a place to make a decision, but I regret absolutely nothing.
Fantastic, Mpho. Thanks for that. Yeah, maybe I can just add in a little bit there. My eldest daughter was born with Down syndrome 30 years ago. So I understand exactly where you are and where you're coming from, both of you. And perhaps I can share some of my insights and experiences at some point with you guys there. So fantastic. Okay, Lee, over to you. Lee, are you with us?
Yeah, I was going to ask Ivan for you maybe just to share a little bit of your story, because it seems, and I think maybe in the light of choices, that the choices, we've been talking maybe a little bit about the choices that we make, or sometimes how we've been impacted by other people's choices. But obviously our choices also impact other people. And when you think about the very earliest stages of life, and that's that person, you know, what choice, and I don't want to go there, but you've got a story to tell, and it just obviously we would like to dig into it a little bit more deeply, but maybe just tell us a little bit about Gail.
Sure, yeah, that's not an easy question, because there's been a lifetime of experience and happenings and things there. So yeah, like I say, she was born just over 30 years ago. In fact, it would have been her 30th birthday on the 12th of April. We weren't given a choice. We didn't know. So, you know, it came as a complete surprise to us after she was born. And unfortunately, the individuals that were involved from a medical perspective didn't have particularly good bedside manners. So it made for a bit of a rocky start to our experience with her. But as you said, Mpho, absolutely zero regrets. You know, it's I think a very special privilege to be given a child, you know, like that, and it changes you. It changes you. It changes the siblings. It changes the family. It has significant impact on everybody around. So yeah, look forward to it. I think what I'd like to do is just perhaps just at this stage just leave you with one comment really, and that is, you know, put massive effort in terms of early childhood development. I think, Steve, that's where you are, and in terms of your mindset, even before your child is born, whether your child does have Downs or not, doesn't really matter. Any child benefits from huge early intervention, and Downs is definitely one of those. There's some beautiful stories around the world about kids with Down syndrome achieving amazing things, and primarily because of that early intervention. So I think that for me is absolutely key. The knowledge and the information that was available to us 30 years ago doesn't even scratch the surface as to what's available to you guys today. So I think there's lots to look forward to, lots to work with, and yeah, lots to enjoy and achieve, and yeah, so fantastic journey that lies ahead of you. If you decide to see it that way, and I think that's fits in perfectly with our discussions this morning. You guys have taken decisions for various reasons, and that's great. The decision now to really focus and deliver the best for your family and for your child going forward will be one of the best decisions of your lives. I have no doubt of that. So yeah, good luck, and we can definitely chat, and if you want to take it offline specifically, my wife and I will be happy to chat to you guys directly. So yeah, we can take it from there. So good luck, and enjoy it. So yeah, I think that's it from me this morning. So back to you, Lee.
Thank you, Ivan. I know it's not an easy topic, and so so thank you. I did throw you in the deep end there on a sensitive topic. Happy birthday to Gail for the 12th that we celebrated in her absence. So we've gone deep and very personal, and Paul, thank you for touching us with that and realizing that in this very small group here, we've got so much in common. And I find that it's so interesting how our stories are so unique, and yet they interweave and in so many different ways. And so yeah, maybe hopefully today has just been an opportunity to think about your life choices, the choices that have got you to where you are now. I have been, I think because we are in this environment where so much is out of our control, and there's so much that's unknown. You can't turn to somebody and say, well, what's going to happen? Well, there's no one really knows. This friend that I was talking to in Oregon, the governor of Oregon has put them on an indefinite, what they call shelter in place. It's not quite, it's like level 4. That's how I would describe it, is they have to stay indoors, and they can exercise outdoors so long as they allow social distancing. And what is the decision she's making? She's saying, I'm letting the virus dictate where we go. So she's not making a decision. And they haven't had cases in weeks, but now she's sort of self-protecting from a political point of view. So why am I saying that? Is that decisions and choices are out of our hands in many ways. So what choices do we make in these situations? And I'm realizing more and more that we have more resources than we realize. And Paul raised that, I think, last week when she said, she put it out there, went to a client and said, here's a proposal. What do you think about it? And surprise, surprise, they came back and said, yeah, this is exactly what we want. And so it's up to us, our intellect, our network, our ability to connect with clients, our ability to relate to family members who might be struggling. What are the choices that we're making and the resources that we have, and realizing that we've got more than we realize to be able to find a way forward. So I'll leave it on that note, that, yeah, I think just an encouragement to make the decisions that are going to work for you. So thank you for that, everybody. And we'll begin again tomorrow and see where it takes us. I don't have anything particularly in mind, but I'm sure if anybody, does anybody have something that they want to go with and a direction that they would like to take? Trevor?
Yeah, I left a little chat message there. I think Stella brought up about how thankful she is and being grateful and all that sort of thing. And strangely enough, it's fitting in with something that I'm busy writing on about for LinkedIn. So I'm going to post an article today, and I suggest sometime next week we go down the route of what we're grateful for, what we're thankful for. I think this has been a phenomenal period for us to actually think about what's on the go, and strangely enough to be influenced by Ian Johnson, which I don't like at all, but I'm thinking about it.
Well, I like that idea. It makes perfect sense for us to pick up on what are we grateful for. We can talk theoretically about the importance of gratitude, but maybe let's make it practical and say, well, what are we grateful for? I think that's a great way forward.
Great, thanks, Lee and Trevor. And I think just a last note from my side. I think Grant started off about talking about people making choices for you, and I think that's what decisions are all about. If you don't make your own decisions, other people are going to make decisions on your behalf, and that goes for the same for your goals. So if you don't make your own goals, you're always going to be achieving someone else's goals. So I'll leave you with that thought. So fantastic Sunday further. Enjoy the day, folks. And yeah, we'll see you in the morning again. Go well. Cheers.